Hi guys, my name is Divanshu Gupta and I'm a graduate of Gujarat National Law University of the year 2015. Currently, I practice in Jaipur at the High Court, DRT, District Court, NCLT, and all other forums. And prior to that, I was working in a premier law firm in Bombay. And today I have created this small uh, discussion come interactive lecture, which the topic for which is very broad, which is optimum utilization of time in law school, making the most of all opportunities. Now, while all of you would be of the view that there is already a lot written and recorded on the subject and it keeps on happening, but still, I feel after 5 years of experience, 5 years of law school plus 5 years of work experience, it was imperative on my side to let out certain things so that students in typically in their third, fourth, and fifth year of law school can make the most of the opportunities which they are getting over there. Now, let me first of all clarify that this is not a technical expertise lecture, and it's not about what skill you need to have and how to go about M&A and how to go about due diligence, but it is more so about that all that which one needs to focus on to develop a skill set for whatever purpose in law school and subsequently after law school and use it for his or her benefit. Broadly, we'll be touching upon three, four things. One is that what is the purpose of law school? Another is the relevance of moot courts in law school. Third is internships. Fourth is, I feel, is another important aspect which I think is still prevalent is the myth about the NLU and non-NLU debate and the per se discrimination which a lot of people talk about. And last are a few other things. Now, when you enter law school and when you try and think of why am I here and what is the purpose of law school, it is very important to realize that what is law school for and what is law school not for. And it's important to have that realization from day one onwards so that tomorrow, when you get out of college, when you get out of university, you don't have that regret as to I came here with certain expectations in mind and I end up leaving as an altogether different or as an altogether a disappointed person. Let me clarify very upfront to all those who are about to enter law school or who are in the first or second year of law school that the purpose of law school on any given day, as of now and was never, to make you a wholesome lawyer. That the moment you complete your 5 years and you can go in court and argue and appear in court, so on and so forth. It is restricted or it is oriented towards making you a wholesome person and having wholesome development. It is definitely not restricted to merely getting a job. It is about involving and engaging yourself in as many activities as possible, which is a mix of research paper writing, mooting, classroom participation, interlinking what you have studied in one class or one subject to another, extracurricular and co-curricular activities. Now, as I go forward, you might be thinking that, I mean, this is turning out to be altogether new, all that which I'm telling you, but I'll elaborate upon all of these things and what I mean by all of these things because law, unlike many other subjects and unlike many other professional courses, is not restricted to having knowledge of one particular sector. You need to know what is happening in the society. You need to know how is the economy going. You need to know what is happening across the border in all your neighboring countries. And you need to know how companies and how people, their mindsets, so on and so forth, is evolving and growing as technology is growing and as life is going forward. So that is why I say that the purpose of law school is oriented towards a wholesome development. Now, to micro analyze it or to break it further, some of these activities are oriented towards self development. Some of these activities are oriented towards developing a habit as to how to work in a team. And why is it important to engage or involve yourself in such activities? Is you realize when you actually start practicing as a lawyer, be it in a corporate law firm or in court or in an NGO or anywhere else. Because these activities not only give you exposure but also help in building self confidence. They also help you in bringing out the best possible version of you, which otherwise till school level might have or might not have happened with you. Some of the activities which one should try and involve himself or herself in a law school which is oriented towards self development are including but not limited to music, debating, anchoring functions, and even being involved in dance activities. At the same time, activities which are oriented towards developing a habit of how to work in a team, that involves being part of a lot of organizing committees which are there, and most importantly, being part of legal aid. At the end of the day, what happens is diversity of experiences is very important. The diversity of reading, diversity of writing, diversity of meeting new people, undertaking different tasks at the same time, all together. Uh, while you focus on all of these things, one question which might arise to you that how exactly does one prioritize in all these things as to what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is more important, and will it be okay if I only focus on studies and rest everything is secondary? Now, let me tell you upfront, very frankly, that studies are very important. Grades are very important, and the mistake which people make or often make is that while realizing that grades are very important, their sole focus becomes on grades, which is in a sense to say that the only important thing in law school are grades. The only important thing in law school is to get out and get a job. That is, in my opinion, not the purpose of law school. The myth which is often prevalent or still prevalent is that law school will teach you the law, which is not true. Law school only teaches you where to find the law if you come across a certain legal issue. How to deduct or ascertain a legal aspects from any particular issue, be it coronavirus, be it the National Population Register or the Citizenship Amendment Act or anything else. It will not give you that training or that experience as to how that you become a master of such problems, but it will act as a tool or as an assistant that whenever you come across such problems, how exactly do you interplay with multiple aspects of law, with multiple aspects of various law to come out with a solution. Now, one of the very important purpose of law school, which it teaches you, is to how to become a solution-oriented person. Purpose of law school is never as to what you see in suits. Purpose of law school is not to teach you as to you that you can go and argue cases from day one onwards, but it is to teach you how to think on your feet and as to prioritize what is urgent and what is not urgent. I'll give you a very small example. For example, today is a Thursday, and Saturday you have a project submission lined up. Monday you have a test. Um, After that Wednesday, you have a moot court submission, and uh, yeah. So there are three things. There's a test, there's a moot court submission, and there is a project submission. Now, there is a particular reason why deadlines in law school are generally tight. There is a particular reason while all of those deadlines are clubbed together, so that tomorrow when you uh, grow up and come out as a lawyer after 5 years, you know as to which particular case and to which particular aspect of a particular case, how much time you want to devote to, how much time you're actually required to devote to, and how to work around between multiple aspects and multiple cases. Uh, One very important thing which we all or which law students need to develop as a habit in law school is that one should just not be afraid of reading large volumes of books, piles, and papers. Why I tell you that? Because any practical case which you will work on after college and or after university, there'll be number or there'll be pages running in 1000 to 2000 pages, and it is at that stage what would matter is that how exactly do you dissect the information, the relevant piece of information from such large volumes of pages and large volumes of books, so on and so forth. Law school gives you the platform and the opportunity to inculcate that habit from day one onwards. So, as we began from wholesome development, we began from the end goal. Then we came on to diversity of experience which one needs to have in law school. We also came on to the priority of grades and how much grades should be prioritized, and most importantly, what should be the end goal of law school? End goal is to develop a skill set. End goal is to have conceptual clarity. End goal is to have theoretical clarity. End goal is to develop the ability to think on your feet. And end goal is not to only work in a certain way or a certain manner that you just end up being in any job or being in any random job. It is to assess your interest, your likings and disliking. Now, how exactly do you go forward from here? This is a very general kind of thing which I just told you, that what is the purpose of law school, what does law school teaches you, what does it not teaches you. Mooting and moot court activity is one of the core activity which one should definitely be involved in any law school. It is something like, as I have just written at this point, that once you get used to them, you will become an addict. And why I say that? Because mooting is something which opens a whole new and range of development and opportunities. Today, I am studying IPR in one class, I am studying family law in another class, I am studying securities in another class, and international humanitarian law in some other class in other semester. But it's only when you work on a particular moot court problem or towards a particular moot court problem, be it a domestic moot court, national moot court, or an international moot court, you realize as to how all of these multiple aspects of law come together and play around with each other. For taking another example again, that if there is a fatal disease to which there is a cure, and that cure as a medicine lies with a particular company, tomorrow the stocks or the share price of that company falls, there's something going wrong internally in that company because of some war which is taking place in, let's say, Iran or Syria. Now this is a very superficial aspect which, in the three lines which I just said, involves the aspect of violation of human rights, involves the aspect of intellectual property right, involves the aspect of securities, share markets, and involves the aspect of internal management of the company, which is governed under the Companies Act. Moot court is something which will scare you always until and unless you start doing or you start reading the moot problem or you start making the memo. The moment you make it, the moment you submit it, the moment you start appearing and start practicing and go and actually appear in your oral rounds of the moot court, it is only after that you'll realize that how it brings out a better version of yourself. We spoke about the ability to think on your feet. um in the previous section, which was about what is the purpose of law school, one of the very important things which moot courts teach us is how exactly to think on your feet, how exactly to answer questions which you have never thought of, how exactly to foresee questions which can or which will come to you when you are representing a certain party or representing a certain case. Now, in all of this exercise, it is very important to be patient. Today, you might think that I have spent some 50 hours or some 40 hours preparing for one moot code, from starting from printing the moot problem to reading it to researching upon it, preparing a memo. But eventually, when you will do one mood, two moods, three moods, and then multiple moods across semesters, you will realize that slowly and slowly your mind is getting trained. Your mind has started to think like a lawyer. I have known many people, many of my friends. I mean, nothing against them. But none. A lot of them did not do a single moot court in college. I I I I think slightly differently. I feel that moot court is a very integral activity to law school life. If one doesn't moot, then it's an experience which is worth cherishing. And if you miss it, then you have missed a really important part of it. It's a moot court problem which actually forces you or constrains you to think like a lawyer. And most importantly, the effort is more important than the result of howsoever small or big a moot you are doing or undertaking. The third aspect which I want to touch upon uh, is internships which you do in law school. Now, across 5 years, there will be roughly a gap of 3 to 4 months of holidays per year, which essentially means 15 to 20 months off, and that is more than 15 to 20 months off. Essentially means some 600 days of holidays. Now, these holidays in law school are deliberately given. It is not to sit at home and enjoy as we used to do in school. What is most important is that you, to begin with, that you should intern. I mean, I'm not saying that you should intern at the best of lawyers or best of law firms or best of NGOs, but to begin with, most important is that you should intern and do not sit at home. It is in internships that you actually get to know what the law is and what the law does. You do an NGO internship, you do an internship with any premier NGO. You realize what is happening in the name of illegal mining. You realize what is happening in the name of domestic violence. You realize that you have so much so written under law books, but how none of it gets implemented, how all of it gets circumvented. And that is where your inspiration lies. That is where you decide that this is what I want to do, this is what I don't want to do, this is the aspect of law which I like, this is the aspect of law which I don't like, this is something which I want to change, or this is something which is moving me. Because again, coming back to our first section, what is the purpose of law school? The purpose of law school is to eventually know where does your interest lies. The purpose of law school is to eventually realize what are your motivation factors, what are your likes, what are your dislikes, which you can only come to know and only come to realize when you start playing around with the practical aspects of law. One was moot courts, another is internships. And what I particularly suggest to my friends, colleagues, and people still in law school who are exploring options for internship is that let's take another example. For example, you have joined an internship in a decent law firm, let's say in Delhi or Bombay. Now it's upon you that how you make that time of your internship count over there. You are not an employee, you are not an associate, and they see that, or the people who are employed over there who are going to delegate work, they'll see that where does your motivation lie. So you should not be ever afraid of asking for work or asking for any kind of work from all kind of people. Work will not come to you, people will not come to you and say please do this work for me. It may happen once, it may happen twice, but you will have to generate and show that interest, that you have that hunger, you want to know that what you have studied in college in the last semester or in the last few years, how all of it is getting worked around over here in this particular workplace, be it a law firm or a litigation office or an NGO or a policy making organization, so on and so forth. Also, a piece of advice which I want to tell you is that try in beginning of your law school career, typically in the first and second year, one should try and explore opportunities outside your hometown, outside your city where you live. While one might have a very reasonable argument that I want to eventually settle where I come from, so it's better to explore internship opportunities in that city itself. But again, from a visionary point of view and from a wholesome development point of view, it will give you an idea as to how different people are doing the same things differently in another city or in another setup. So try and explore opportunities outside your city, outside your hometown, for any kind of internship. uh, Again, why I'm stressing upon the fact that why internship is very important. So I remember this particular example from my internship in a law firm in Bombay. I was asked to cull out all and every kind of compliances, notifications, orders, statutes, which from pertaining to environmental law, which were relevant to setting up of a infrastructure project in a particular location. I think I don't remember the nature of the infrastructure project. So that exercise involved culling out of a lot of notifications and some judgments also, which were at that point of time the law on infrastructure projects, a lot of orders, and of course the Wildlife Protection Act, the Air Act, the Water Act. One of the notifications when it started, as you must have noticed in certain notifications issued, had that word SO written on it, S dot O. And I was quite curious as to know what does this SO mean. I had to read up the constitution, I had to search on the internet. SO basically meant it's a short form, it's an abbreviation which you will see on many notifications. SO basically means standing order, which is issued by the legislature to the in terms of the power given to it under the constitution. Now, why am I quoting this example at this stage? Because tomorrow, after 2, 3, 5, or 7 years of work experience, one matter comes to you. A client comes to you pertaining to an infrastructure project and says that this is some order which has been issued by the government, and I stand aggrieved of it because such and such loss is happening to me. Because of the instructions in this order or in this standing order. At that point of time, you need to know where is does that standing order actually stem from. Where did the legislature get that power to draft or frame that standing order, which is exactly the legal provision or the constitutional provision which you need to attack if you have to challenge the constitutional validity of such an order by way of writ jurisdiction or anything else. So it's a very superficial and basic example, but the message which I'm trying to, the point which I'm trying to drive home is that it's very important to have your eyes, ears, and mind open whenever you're working. Never do your work either at internship or any workplace from a mechanical point of view, that if your associate, the concerned associate or senior has told you that go complete do this XYZ, do that, complete that XYZ work which has been told to you. But always make sure that you understand that work from a wholesome perspective. You understand as to why you are being asked to do a certain thing in a certain way. What is the end goal to achieve? What is the end goal which is being trying to achieved by the employer or the firm or the associate which has given you that work? Because as long as you don't understand the entire puzzle and you keep working as a jigsaw in the puzzle, you'll not know as to the hard work or the effort which you're putting in, where exactly it's leading it to you. Another important thing as a law student or as an intern in a law office, which one should try and develop, is uh, a mastery on formatting. After you've put in all the content, be it in a research paper, in a presentation, or in a moot court memo, and everything else, formatting has a very key role to play. People do say that one should never judge a book by its cover, but in law, at many instances and at many spaces, people do judge a book by its cover, because our profession is such that presentation is very important. It's your presentation in the first place which will decide whether someone is going to read your 30 pages long document or your 300 pages long document, be it a writ petition which you have filed in the High Court or a research paper which you have submitted for a particular competition. Because it's a lot of people are saying and a lot of people are submitting number of things. All of them are more or less similar, but it is the presentation and the conclusion which differs your submission from another. It is the presentation which will catch the eye of the reader, which is not being done by anyone else. Another aspect which I want to touch upon is that law schools and law colleges, which are in those cities which already have high courts, like Ahmedabad or Gandhinagar, like Delhi, like Allahabad or Lucknow or Jodhpur. So law students should try and make it a point to do internships, like something what they call as evening internships. Your classes get over something, let's say around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Now, generally, a typically free day when you don't have any test, on when the semester is not its semester is only cruising and it's not swiftly moving fast, you can definitely try and attach yourself to some lawyer who is okay to have you in his office, let's say from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, or 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, so that you can assist him with research and some drafting of next day's matters. Now, what will happen is that you don't have to wait for your 4 months or 5 months semester to get over and to only get an internship experience post that. You can make most of your time in law school then and there itself, and in addition you do those internships. Now this becomes typically very important when the place or the city which you are looking to settle in, or see, my perspective or all the perspective is which I'm giving for optimum utilization of time in law school, it's slightly litigation oriented and slightly litigation biased, because I'm myself into litigation. Now, what I'm trying to say, this evening internships, how it become important is that you study in that city, you study in the college which is there in the city, During the course of your semester, you keep visiting the high court, let's say starting from your second year, third year. You start getting to know the lawyers over there through your senior for whom you're doing the internships. So by the time it's fourth year or by the time it's end of fifth year, you have already interned with some of the most well renowned or some of the good lawyers of that city or of the court which you already want to practice in, and without any extra effort during the course of the semester. You didn't have to travel outside the city, you didn't have to spend much, and also at the same time you could utilize that time which you would have otherwise spent doing nothing or just random things post your classes during the early months of any semester in law school. And now, as to there are a lot of things during an internship. You might get work, you might not get work, or work might not be that swift. But always remember that work is paramount. Rest everything is secondary. Networking with your seniors, with your friends, going to parties, so on and so forth, is always a secondary aspect of any internship. All of that does happen, but work is paramount. Some of the things which you can consider remembering and focusing in your internship is that you always work in a manner which reduces the effort of your immediate senior to whom you're working for. So I'll give you an example. I have been asked to do a case law research. The case law research proposition is that whose finding would be prevalent in case of a competition law dispute? Will it be that of the Competition Commission of India, or will it be that of a sectoral regulator? Like in case of telephone, you have the TRAI, or in case of petroleum disputes, you have the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board. Now, one thing what I can do is that I find all the relevant cases, take a print of them, or email them to my senior saying that these are the relevant cases. I think these are relevant. You go through them. Now, how you upgrade that finding? You upgrade that finding by highlighting the relevant paras on those cases and then emailing it to your senior or handing it over to your senior, be it whether you have searched them out through Manupatra or SCC. You further upgrade that position when you realize that your senior is running out of time or has a time crunch and does not have time to read as many as 30, 20, or a 40 pages long case law or a judgment. So you send the bare text of the judgments to your senior and also attach a one-page summary. Now that one-page summary doesn't have to be very extensive, or you don't need to spend too much time on it. All you have to do is that by reading that one page, he should get a clear idea as to what lies in these five or these six judgments which you have sent him. It can be that what is the research question, what is the finding of the case? You quote the exact paragraph by copying it in that one page summary. And lastly, can be your observation as to how it helps us. If a particular case says no, the finding of the Competition Commission of India will prevail, then what has been the reasoning which has been adopted by that court to say so, and vice versa? So, what will happen is that your senior will realize that instead of again doing a mechanical job, as we were talking about earlier, by merely sending case laws, you have actually put an effort to analyze and to realize as to why this judgment is relevant, this judgment is not relevant, or this judgment is more relevant, this judgment is less relevant. So that is what I mean, that work in a manner which reduces the effort of your immediate senior or of your immediate reviewer. That will eventually increase productivity of all of you. Your increased productivity will lead to an increase in productivity of the associate or the senior associate. His increased productivity will lead to the increase in productivity of the partner and eventually of the firm. Make it a point that in every internships, the smallest of tasks which are being assigned to you, you make a summary of them and do some follow-up research on them. That Don't end your research on just what the competition commission is doing in tussle with the sectoral regulator. You should try and see what is happening around the world, what is the position in UK, what is the position in USA, and eventually convert that research into a research paper, and not let it go the day the research ends or the internship ends. Availability during internships is very crucial. What I mean by availability during internships, if someone is sending you an email, if someone is dropping you a text, if someone is dropping your WhatsApp, hey, I need you to do so and so work in such and such time, your prompt replies and your effort at that point of time is very, very much noticed, is considered, because it's these are the small things which will eventually help you or which eventually help the prospective employer in realizing that whether this person is worth the shot or not. Because if you are not able to realize or not replying to a text or an email as an intern on an immediate basis, that shows how much serious you are about what work you are doing and how much serious you are not. And one more aspect which I want you to focus upon is that as law students, I mean, as a law intern, I used to face this problem that the associates or the senior associate would give that research to me, and I would more or less be lost. I won't understand that what exactly is the purpose or what exactly is the outcome of this entire exercise. What do they want to do? What do they don't want to do? Because what happens is that you are still growing as a lawyer, and you're still studying subjects in law school. Some of those subjects are which you haven't already studied. But to any problem or to any such issue, your answer should never be that, sir, I have not studied this in law school, I am still in second year, I am still in third year. Because usually, whatever work is being given to you is given with the understanding that you have that capacity and that ability that you will be able to deal with it. You have that capacity and understanding that even if you do a simple Google search on it, you can pick up the Bare Act, read and understand the law, and come out with something. Uh, at the same time, internships should never be a demotivating factor with you. Sometimes what happens is that due to deadline crunch, due to time crunch, you might find someone who is slightly nasty, and not by choice, slightly nasty, but by compulsion, because of the kind of pressure from his senior or his clients which he is facing. And at the end of the internship, he might just say that you didn't do that work on time, or your research was not up to the mark. What is important in these situations is that you should take that feedback seriously. You should take that, consider that feedback, not ignore that. But at the same time, you should not take it too seriously also, because you should realize that it's still an internship. You're not into full-time employment, and you're still into the learning process of law. Remember that aspect about moot courts which we spoke in the previous section, where when I said that yeah, there is when you do one moot court, two moot court, three moot courts. So with every moot court, there is a bent of mind which you start developing, and your development happens as to how to deal with the legal problem. Same thing applies to an internship also, that with one internship, second internship, third internship, it's nothing but you are growing eventually. And every feedback should only be taken constructively, and nothing should be a demotivating factor. Now, why I tell you to take internship very seriously is because you need to understand the money cycle. Now, what exactly is the money cycle? Again, coming back to a research point question. Why you need to respond to all associate emails, calls, research queries on priority, and understand that every work which is being delegated to you, even a simple formatting of a document, even a simple proofreading of a document, has a money cycle involved to it, which will only move forward when you move forward the work. So, a senior associate in the law firm has drafted one document or has prepared a legal opinion. He is not sure about one particular aspect of law. So, he tells his junior, which is the associate, that while I have prepared the opinion, I want you to check this particular aspect of law, and we need to send this opinion out. Right now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We need to send this opinion out by 11 in the morning tomorrow. Now, that associate has another deadline for 11 in the morning tomorrow, but at the same time realizes that the research point is small and he can tackle it, and he looks out for you as an intern to do that research. Now, because he's bound by some confidentiality reasons and by some confidentiality clauses, all he can tell you is that, Devanshu, I need uh, this research on this point latest by 6 p.m. tomorrow or 6 p.m. today. Now he will say 6 p.m. today so that he can use that time post 6 p.m. until 11 a.m. tomorrow or until 10 a.m. tomorrow to analyze as to what you have researched, how much correct is that or how much absolutely incorrect is that, and how much of that can be incorporated in that opinion which has been prepared by that senior associate. So you need to, if someone is telling you 6 p.m. today, that means 6 p.m. today. You give it to him by 6 p.m. If you have any doubt, don't ask at 5:30 p.m. or 5:45 p.m., but go and ask it at 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. so that at 6 p.m. with 3 hours of research, there is something substantial, and the associate who is packed between or sandwiched between as to whatever research you have given him versus keeping the client happy and keeping his immediate senior associate happy, uh, doesn't go I mean doesn't loses his mind that I don't have anything on my plate and how will I take this forward. So this is what I mean by the money cycle, that when you will do it in time, someone else will have time to look at your work. When someone will else will have time to look at your work properly, he will be able to incorporate it and give it to further someone else who will finalize it and eventually give it to the client, in this case the legal opinion, so that the client can pay the money to the law firm and the client can utilize that legal opinion to generate some money for himself. Either ways, that whether that client is restricted to undertake that activity, whether the client is not restricted to undertake that activity, the client can issue those shares on a foreign stock exchange or he cannot issue those shares. So to any and everything, there's a money cycle involved. This is a very commercial example which I just give you. I'll take another example. I'll take an example, a very litigation-centric example, which is bail. Now, drafting and filing of a bail application in a bail matter, the timing is very important. I mean, the nitty-gritty of the bail application is important, but at the same time, the timing is very important because often it so happens that on Friday evening, a client will come to you that on Wednesday, my son or my uncle was put into jail. These are the papers, and I want you to get him bailed out of jail on Monday morning itself, or on Tuesday. So you have to, how it will work out is that your senior will tell, make a list of dates first of all, see what has happened when, what is the sequence and chronology of events. Give me the bail latest by Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. Sunday, I'll have a look at the entire draft. We'll sit together, and Monday morning, we are going to file that bail and argue that matter so that that person is out of police custody or out of jail on Monday evening. So that is what I mean when I say that understand the money cycle. I think this is more or less about internships. Now, one last thing which I want to touch upon, which is still existing, and I'll touch upon very briefly, is bursting the NLU and non-NLU myth. See, it's been 5 years of practice, and before that, 5 years of college, and till date, I hear things like that in the market, in the Indian legal market. There is a bias towards or there's a tendency to prefer NLU students over non-NLU students. I don't deny that, irrespective of whether I belong to NLU or I don't belong to NLU. I have more non-NLU friends than NLU colleagues or NLU friends belonging to Symbiosis, Rajasthan University, General Global Law School, etc., etc. Now, to begin with, I think is there a bias? Yes. Why? That we'll come on to subsequently. But most importantly, you need to ignore. I mean, if at all you belong to a non-NLU, you need to ignore this bias. Why it actually exists is purely for the reason is the extensive training, the difficulty level of training, course curriculum, etc., which is generally there at any NLU. I'll give you one very small example how it differs again. Now, KM Nanavati versus State of Bombay, very famous, very prominent criminal law justice system case. Now, if in your IPC exam or if in your CRPC exam, the question comes to you that A is a person who is into military and he works at such and such port or such dockyard. His hometown is this, and his A has a family of four, and he also has a friend. Now, I'm sure you're understanding where I'm coming to. Basically, in your question paper, they have summarized the entire KM Nanavati versus State of Bombay case on a no-name basis, and they have said that such and such instance has happened. A has killed that person. Now decide that case. How will you do that? It goes without saying that you will write the answer, say that as per the facts and circumstances of the case given in KM Nanavati versus State of Bombay, this case should be decided accordingly. So it what I why, the reason which I am why I am giving this example is that if such would be the training or would be the kind of question papers which will come to train law students, and I'm not restricting this to non-NLUs or NLUs. I have myself often seen such questions in my times of law school, and so it's not more so about the debate whether a particular person belongs to a national law university or not belong to a national law university. It's more so about how much that particular person has developed the ability to apply his mind to a particular legal problem. Only difference is that the course curriculum structure or the kind of training is such in national law universities to a certain extent. I mean, without taking anything from the credibility of any non-national law university, that it forces that particular law student to think more and again become a solution oriented person, which we had spoke about in our first section, which was what is the purpose of a law school. So instead of whether firms are hiring associates from national law universities or non-national law universities, and whether there's a bias in terms of salary, in terms of treatment, our sole focus should only be on creating value, and our sole focus is that should be on whether or not we are applying that much ourselves to a particular legal problem to come out with a solution or not. Because let me tell you, the all the leading lawyers and judges of India today, none of them went to a national law school. All of them went to traditional law colleges. So that doesn't mean that that's denying the credibility which national law universities hold or any other universities hold. It's about making the right decision at the right time, grabbing the opportunity with both hands whenever it comes to you, be it in form of an assignment or a task given to you in any internship or any moot court or classroom participation. I think this is briefly about the three aspects which we had initially decided to touch upon, which was purpose of law school, moods internships, the NLU and non-NLU debate. On a concluding remark, and to keep this short, I would like to tell you that to assess where you want to be after 5 years of college or after 5 years of law school, it's important that you spend time in assessing your likes and dislikes and see what suits your temperament. Because I have seen people taking, I mean, practical examples who join litigation with, I mean, great, what do you say, great enthusiasm, great excitement, only to be disappointed by the fact that you have to keep waiting for your number to reach, you have to keep waiting for your matter to reach the entire day. Sometimes it doesn't reaches for days, sometimes it doesn't reaches for months. I look at it as an occupational hazard. If you work at a law firm, you have to sit at one place and work. I mean, that will be your desk, that will be your office. If you work with an NGO, you will have to do field work, you will have to travel around from cities, you will have to visit places where something or the other illegal is going on, where there's something or the other kind of atrocity which is happening. Always remember that any and every kind of sub-legal field which you are involved in, you will essentially be either helping someone in saving their life or recovering their money. Money and life are two very important aspects which we as lawyers handle with and help people with recover, starting from check bounce cases to insolvency to I mean arbitrations, commercial arbitration. Everywhere you will see, or a bail or a criminal case, either it's about life or it's about money. So you need to see that in which particular sub setup of a of law your likes and dislikes, like what are your motivation factors, what suits your temperament. Do you like sitting at one place and working, you like traveling around, you like speaking, presenting more, so you want to see yourself in court. You should also try and assess what is the pattern of subjects do you like. Do you like humanitarian law more, or are you interested in the interloop of Companies Act with securities law and with IPR, or your interest lies in family law? If your interest lies in family law, definitely go ahead and pursue it. If your interest lies in family law, become a wealth management lawyer. So people don't know these days how to draft a will, how to dispose of their wealth, how to further disseminate their wealth to their legal heirs. So don't be in a hurry to conclude. Assess your likes and dislikes, and most importantly, what I want to tell you is give yourself one complete chance. I mean, don't give up on anything too easily, and don't decide on any particular thing in a jiffy or in a hurry, be it a particular subject or an interest area. Give yourself time, start reading about it in journals, in newspapers, see as to what you're studying in law is, how it's getting implemented. Currently, the example which I can give you, that one particular area or one particular aspect which has now huge scope of research, which laws as law students, all of us can explore, is the area of force major. I think right now what the world is facing in form of coronavirus is the most classical and the most relevant example of force major. Will this Is this a force major or not? For what kind of contracts it is force major, for what kind of contracts it is not force major? Read in newspapers, read in law journals what has been previously written about it. Read what happened in 1820 and 1920 during the time of bubonic plague. How were these situations dealt with legally and under contractual obligations, and how much of that is relevant at this stage? Lastly, but most importantly, focus on creating value and becoming an asset, rather than just focusing on landing up in any and every job after 5 years of law school. I mean, job is very important, money is very important, but we go wrong when we just decide that the only important thing in life or after getting out of college is money. So try and become a wholesome lawyer, have a conceptual clarity. If someone asks you what is a contract after 5 years of college, you should not go blank. Section 2 of the Indian Contract Act defines a contract. An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. Have conceptual clarity of things and see where your interest and motivation lies to accordingly join that particular law office or that particular subfield of law and make the most of your time in law school and subsequently. I think this is all from my side as of now. I wanted to keep this short and a very preliminary lecture as to how to make the most of your time in law school. What are the tools which can assist you in doing that? I'll be happy to address your queries through email or call if any. And thank you so much for listening to me.